The profile string we've created currently has no context or relationship between it and the existing road profile. It also has no context between maybe any of the other strings that we've designed, such as the basin or the building pad. So to get some relationship going between this profile string and the road string and maybe some of the other strings, we're going to open up the design in the vertical grading editor. So we're going to go up to the Open Vertical Grading, and then we're going to left click somewhere near the profile string. We're going to make this full screen just by clicking on the button in the top right hand corner. We're going to go to the Design Constraints tab, and in there we have a list of different types of constraint that we can create, and think of these as projections initially from different parts of the project. For ease and simplicity, we're going to create 3, but we're going to use the same constraint each time. So we're going to pick the second one down, which is Project Design Code. As soon as you select the type, you need to click the little plus button. This is to create, and we're going to complete it with the following name. Click OK. You may see some line work presented to you in the screen, and this is because the software has immediately just populated some of the cells. Now, if you don't have your VGE screen fully expanded, you may not see some of the text in these locations. So just make sure that if you're not seeing some of the text, that you've got your VGE maximized. So the first thing we do is give it the start and end stations, which you can see here are all the way through the string. We then choose which string we would like to see. Now what we're going to do here is ask it to show us the profile of the centerline of existing road. So the string will be existing road, and then the code we want to see is the centerline. Nice and simple. All we're then going to do is simply click on Apply. You'll see a colored line, and this represents the centerline of our existing road. So that at least gives us some initial context. Now, the color for that is currently being displayed because it's based on the upper color. So if you want to change that, you can click on the upper color and change that to maybe either a red, a magenta, or even a sky blue color, just something to give you some contrast against the other colors in the vertical grading editor. So I'm going to go ahead and choose red and click OK. Click Apply to make the change on screen. So that's our first constraint added, and that's to help us build a picture as to how our profile string currently looks against the existing crown. Now we're going to add another constraint, and rather than add something from our existing road, we're actually going to add the elevations or profile of the building pad, which is adjacent. So to do this, we're going to, again, just come down, make sure we choose the same constraint, Project Design Code. We're going to click on Add, create a new one, and we'll simply call this Building Pad and click OK. I'm going to be showing the profile of the building pad, so we're going to scroll down the list until we see GR for grading string building platform. There we go. We want to see the centerline of the building platform, and as far as we're concerned at the moment, we want to see this in a different color. So rather than having the red, let's maybe go in and choose a magenta and click OK. Once you've done that, click Apply. And you'll see a line generated which is depicting the centerline level of our building platform. Now at this point, we're just going to change the size of the VGE screen. And just move it to one side so we can see what's happening here. So as we move our mouse in the vertical grading editor screen, you can see here that little tracker is appearing down in the bottom left. So we've got the building pad being positioned for us. Because it's at one continuous elevation, it's being displayed. Now let me show you what happens if we make an adjustment to the elevation of the building pad. So I'm going to open up the vertical grading editor for the building pad. And simply add a PVI at the back left hand corner here. So I'm going to use the grid editor to do that and snap a point somewhere in that corner. We then offered the chance to change the elevation. I'm actually going to add a couple of feet to this elevation and press enter. and you'll see that that adjustment has happened in the profile view of our building pad. Now that's great, but watch what happens to the design constraint. So we're going to open up the vertical grading editor again, and we're going to strike the refresh button, and we get what appears to be zigzags. At this point, you may be wondering why that would be happening. Well, simply, when we take a projection or a constraint from another string, the software basically projects until it strikes that code on the string for infinity. So at the moment, what we're seeing is we're seeing the centline level being picked up at the front of the building pad, and then it will strike it again, and it gives us the details of that particular point as well. And that will continue all the way through. So it's actually picking up, in this case, the frontage of the building at that elevation, and it's also picking up the back of the building at that elevation, which is not strictly what we want to see. So if we were just looking to see the frontage of the building, just these 2 points, we can reduce how far the software will search. So I'm just going to take a measurement between roughly where the profile string is to a rough location here, and we can see that the distance would be about 83 feet. So rather than searching for 1,000 feet, we're going to search for 85 feet, click on apply. That will only pick up the frontage. So for any point you find yourself with a constraint that maybe doesn't look quite right, it's generally due to the fact that the code that you're picking up from that particular string is occurring twice in the same section. So you can reduce how far the software will actually look for that particular constraint. One other final constraint we're going to add onto here is to actually help us design our profile strings. At the moment, these are constraints which are giving us some kind of context, but not necessarily helping us design. So we're going to go back to the types list, click on Project Design Code, click on Add, and then we're going to call it as follows, and click OK. To help us design the particular string, what we're going to do is ask the software to project -2 and -5% from the centerline of our existing road and project that onto our profile string, knowing that we can design within those 2 projections. We'll start off by leaving the string as existing road. We'll leave the code as centerline, but what we're now going to do is type in some crossfalls from that centerline. So we're going to type in -2 and -5. And then we're going to pick 2 contrasting colors. So I'm going to pick a fairly light blue for the first color, which is for the lower crossfall, and for the upper crossfall, I'm going to pick a darker blue and click OK. Once we've done that, click Apply. Now if you want to, you can zoom in just using your mouse wheel here and scrolling just to zoom in and see what's going on. You can actually see the location of the -2% in the lighter blue and the -5% in the darker blue. So if you wanted to, you could now go to the Home tab and use the PVI tools to move the PVIs within that particular design window if you wanted to. However, we're going to look at some tools within the vertical grading editor which will help us design the profile with the constraints in mind.